Hi everyone, Ouch That He Knows Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Kacey Musgraves record, Star-Crossed. This is a new LP from singer and songwriter, Texas native, and country crossover queen, Miss Kacey Musgraves. This is her 5th studio album and comes after the release of the hugely successful Golden Hour in 2018, which saw Kacey dropping a track list of songs that were really dreamy and approachable with a very minor country flair. Commercially, I respect the move that Kacey made on that record, because she's been at it for years now and has dropped some respectable country pop projects in that time, and maybe she has reached a point where the country scene alone isn't enough to satisfy her artistic ambitions. Once you've successfully transitioned over into the pop sphere, like in the case of Taylor, the growth potential is so much higher. And Golden Hour was Kacey's first considerable taste of that. Plus, since it came out, the industry has been giving her every possible sign that it could, more of this please. And I think Star-Crossed is merely Kacey answering that call for snappier hooks, more reverb, more pop instrumentation, more synths, more dance grooves. In many ways, this record is also a response to some personal tragedy in Kacey's life as well. Her divorce from fellow songwriter Rustin Kelly. So the writing on this LP is pretty focused on themes of falling out of love, separation, love on the rocks, regret, longing for some kind of emotional connection. On paper, everything about this record makes sense and potentially points to another W on the board for Musgraves. So how has this album managed to be one of the biggest and most awful messes I've heard this year? From the production to the instrumentation to the singing and writing, this album is just so lacking on all fronts. Even if Golden Hour, to my ears, was kind of uninteresting and vague the year that it dropped, at least that LP had a focused sonic vision and carried it out pretty coherently. Meanwhile, Star-Crossed just offers a laundry list of problems. The opening track hits us right away with one of the biggest of them, and that would be the mastering on the record. Now, look, I appreciate that this song is a really dramatic opener for the LP that describes the souring of a relationship with really great lyrics that take us from a dream to a point where we're, signing divorce papers. Narratively, it's great. But the moment we get the full range of instrumentation on the track, that's when we hear just how overblown and compressed everything sounds, to the point where the whole mix is too boomy and just utterly destroys the sound quality of the song. It makes Kacey's voice come in hotter than it needs to. The buzzing guitar notes that pop up here and there sound totally fried and grating. The cinematic synth arpeggios and background vocals are just a blaring mush. It's just not the sloppy presentation that you want on a song with so many refined layers of sound. Now, from this point forward on the record, nearly every track offers a loud piece of instrumentation or a rush or a crescendo that clips or comes close to clipping, or gives us like a huge hit of reverb that's like swallowing every piece of sound in the mix. The instrumentation on this thing sounds at war with itself to see who gets the most volume, and no matter who's winning, the whole thing loses. Now, this impacts the following tracks on the record in a variety of ways, but I'm gonna leave my criticisms on this issue here. I don't want to spend this entire review just talking about the mastering. The fact of the matter is this record should have just not been released in this state. Plus, there are other issues worth focusing on, like the writing and instrumentation on the song Good Wife, which is kind of like a pop songwriter ballad with summary hits of instrumentation on the chorus, and these choruses are unbearably tacky with a whole truckload of auto-tune on the first line of Kacey's voice. Then there's the funky soft rock guitar leads and the lyrics that just sound like she's coddling the guy she's singing about for bar after bar. And if he comes home stressed, I could pack him a bowl. It all feels like the internal monologue of like somebody who's in one of those couples that has like those bitch asshole bedspreads where, they're just like kind of celebrating what a dysfunctional couple they are. Then the writing and the lyricism somehow gets a bit more tasteless on the song Cherry Blossom, which is a love tune with these odd surface level attempts at making nods to East Asian culture. You know, the Cherry Blossom baby line and not wanting to be blown away and the chemistry lines and that sort of thing are sweet enough. But then there's also this stuff about Tokyo not being built in a day and these melodies that sound like a white person's interpretation of what Japanese melodies sound like being hammered out on the black keys of a keyboard. Yeah, it's literally what, I swear to fucking Christ. I don't know what is with this weird random appropriation stuff on this track. It's just, I don't know, very basic, along with the totally lifeless singing over the song too. I think the song Simpler Times, like the opening track, provides more relatable writing from Kacey. You know, it's about missing the simpler times and being grown up sucks, and you wish that you were back at the mall, hanging with your friends and getting hit up on a pager. Because everything going on right now sucks, and you want to hit pause on it like a video game and take the headset off. Because I told you guys who the imposter was in the last round and you didn't believe me. Look, the sentiment of the song is fine. I just think the singing doesn't really offer a whole lot. The instrumental is generic outside of some of the weird choices made, like this completely awful synthesizer patch that's being applied here, along with these occasional dub reggae drum fills. No idea where the hell that's coming from, but the song, if this was a movie, is somewhat of a welcome change of pace, given that for a good chunk of it, it's mostly just Kacey's voice and guitar, but at the same time, these sounds are soaked in a nonsensical amount of reverb. The whole thing eventually develops into this very easygoing, elevator-friendly trip-hop beat. It's like what you would get if you took Portishead and stripped out every unique and likable quality about their music. The song Justified hits the relatability nail on the head once again, with narrative lyrics about the whirlwind of emotions that one can feel once they are betrayed or mistreated. The healing doesn't happen in a straight line on the track I thought was actually kind of profound. The hook is sharp as hell, singing is decent too, that boomy master maybe sort of kneecapping it a bit, but I still think it's one of the more likable tracks here. The song Angel is a more stripped back acoustic centerpiece in the midst of the LP that is fine. I like instrumentally the direction it's going in. I don't mind the narrative of the song all that much either, with Kacey going into all the ways in which she'd navigate the negative aspects of her relationship if only she were an angel, this supreme being. But there's just something about the presentation of the guitars, and especially the vocals, that seems really just too touched up, inorganic. I've never heard something so stripped back sound so, I guess, synthetic and almost not real. From here we move into a second half of the LP that doesn't exactly see things picking up. Breadwinner's kind of like the badly executed No Scrubs of the LP. It's all about a guy who's essentially a layabout trying to get with you, and I get the sentiment of the song. There are people out there who are definitely leeches. But God, if I don't laugh every single time the hook comes around. He wants a breadwinner, he wants your dinner. I just feel like this track is another corny, soft rock and pop fusion with painfully obvious lyrics. Sort of the same issue with the song Camera Roll, which is about getting a hit of sad nostalgia off of the old pictures in your phone. And while generally I don't really have issues with, you know, references to more recent technology popping up in pop music, in contemporary songwriting, the way it's gone about here, I mean, Jesus, you might as well be writing about pictures on Facebook or something. Chronological order and nothing but torture, scroll too far back, that's what you get. I don't want to see him, but I can't delete him. It just doesn't feel right yet. This and the whole collection of Ray Dunn pottery, please. Easier Said features more dream pop aesthetics along with some questionable lyrics too. Right on the opening, the first couple of lines we get are, I can write a melody and maybe I could even make it rhyme. How do you make a melody rhyme? Yeah, I know it seems like a really nerdy thing to say, but it don't make no sense. I will say I think the song Hookup Scene is an improvement though. This may be my favorite track on the entire LP. It is one of the softer and simpler tracks in terms of instrumentation, and for whatever reason, doesn't seem too overblown here either. It's actually like kind of sweet on the ears. I really commend Kacey's writing on this track too, because it shows her in kind of a sad and hopeless place, emotionally vulnerable, lonely, seeking out a hookup to kind of fill the void, but then after feeling even emptier than she did before. Meanwhile, Lookin' Up isn't too bad either, and is maybe the most country sounding song on the entire LP, with its vocal melodies that are kind of rustic, its acoustic guitar licks. The instrumentation here actually reminds me of Golden Hour a little bit, and in a way makes me kind of miss the aesthetics of that LP. I wish I could go back there. Anyway, it's kind of an inspirational number that sees Kacey's writing playing that relatability card once again. But sadly, from here, Kacey saved some of the worst for last on the record. We have the song There Is a Light, which is like a dream pop, new age, country dance crossover that eventually gives us this terrible disco beat and jazz flute. There are a few different like jazz flute passages on the song as well that just make absolutely no sense, but they're there. All in all, I kind of feel like I'm listening to a bizarro version of something off the Jessie Ware record. And for good measure, Kacey seemed to really want to kick all of our asses like out of the door with the closing track here. We're presented with a cover here that maintains the song's original Spanish lyrics. It's the track Gracias a la Vida, originally by Chilean songwriter Violeta Parra. And not only are Kacey's vocals not really strong enough to carry this kind of song, but we kind of go through a really weird and experimental progression across the track where the effects and aesthetics of the song shift from verse to verse. We kind of start off with the whole recording sounding like it's coming off a crackling phonograph, and it's really old time, and it's very vintage. And then at one point it sounds like it was recorded to tape with maybe some 60s or 70s production aesthetics. And then it kind of gets clearer and crisper as it's moving along until it's like high def and very digital and clean. And then at the very end, for whatever reason, it ends with this hideous auto-tuned abortion with like 3, 4, 5 different auto-tune or like synth layers. It sounds very much like a Rosalia or James Blake or Bon Iver experiment gone horribly wrong. And man, is it a very special way to top off a record that was easily one of the most difficult listens I've had of anything this year. Yeah, this one was rough. I'm feeling it much less than I was even Golden Hour, honestly. And even though I wanted to enjoy this one, I'm really at a struggle for anything positive to say about it outside of some of the tunes being okay. And I generally do enjoy the, you know, focus on heartbreak and relationships and separation that Kacey goes through here, but I can't ignore the fact that a lot of the lyrics and the instrumentation and the production are just downright awkward or awful, along with the singing. Feeling a decent 2 strong 2 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Kacey Musgraves, forever.